Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُ الدُّعَاء دُعَاءُ يَوْمِ عَرَفَةٍ, that the best supplication is the supplication on that day of Arafah. وَخَيْرُ مَا قُلْتُ أَنَا وَنَبِيُّونَ مِنْ قَبْلِي, and the best of what I and the prophets before me have said. لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. There is only one God. وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ, alone with no partners. لَهُ الْمُلْكُ وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ. To Him belongs all praise. To Him belongs all blessings. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, and to Him belongs power over all things. And the word Arafah means to come to know. To come to know who? To come to know your Lord. وَمَنْ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ. And if you know your Lord, then you know yourself. وَمَنْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ. And if you know yourself, اعْتَرَفَ بِذَنْبِهِ وَنَقْصِهِ مَعَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Then you will naturally know your own shortcomings in regards to your Lord. The blessings that He has bestowed upon you are a prerequisite to you understanding the deficiency with which you have responded, which then leads you to the most sincere version of your supplication. You have to remember that the ibadah of Arafah, the worship of Arafah for the Prophet ﷺ, for 7 years before Hajj was fasting. It was fasting the day of Arafah in Medina, longing for the opportunity to stand in Arafah just like we long for it. It was a remarkable day, a special day to the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims every single year without Hajj. And we have to renew that in our hearts, that this is the best day of the year. You think about what you would do if you had the most important day of your life, right? Which we'll just say, for the sake of it, your wedding. The day that you have a child or your spouse gives birth to a child, the day of your child's graduation. That day is a momentous day on that year's calendar. You're looking forward to it. You are longing for it. We don't know which of the last 10 nights is the last 10 nights. So the best night of the year is concealed, so we strive for all 10 nights, right? But we know exactly when Arafah is. We know exactly when Arafah is. We know the day. We know the time. We can plan for it. We have no doubt that this is the best day of the year. We have no doubt that everything the Prophet ﷺ said is happening in those moments where Allah is boasting to the angels and forgiving His creation. That is not just for the people standing in the makan, in the place of Arafah. The forgiveness from Allah that comes on that day covers everyone. So what do we do on that day? Well, first and foremost, the intention. Comes back to the intention. From now, Ya Allah, I'm going to worship you on that day. Ya Allah, I'm going to fast that day. And you know what? If you can't fast for any reason, the Prophet ﷺ assured you that the reward is there anyway because you had the intention. And if you were prohibited by means or by circumstances that are out of your hands, then Allah has written down for you the full reward. I'm going to observe that day. I'm going to look forward to that day. Everything before that day, as I plan for that day, is ibadah. So you know what? You're sleeping early on Sunday nights is a form of ibadah. It's an act of worship. Go to sleep early on Sunday night. Get yourself ready on Sunday nights. The suhoor that you wake up for, the Prophet ﷺ said the angels send their prayers upon the people as they're doing the suhoor. Start off your day with the suhoor on that day. One major change that you're going to make in life on the best day of the year, it's worth it. A day that brings us back to, Ya Allah, I am going to live my life the way that you have commanded me to live my life in hopes for what you have promised me in the next. Starting off the day with Fajr in Jama'ah, in congregation. And you stay till sunrise, you have Hajj written down for you on the day of Arafah. So make sure you're here on Monday morning, inshaAllah ta'ala. Start off your day with the 2 rak'ahs of duha, sunrise, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then spend the day in dua and be certain in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. Call upon your Lord while you are certain in the answer. Don't say, Allahumma ghfirli in shi't, as oh Allah, forgive me if you want to, or if you will. No. Call upon Allah with complete certainty in His answer on that day. The Prophet ﷺ spent that whole day in dua. If you can't think of what you're going to say for the hours of that day, start getting your list together. But let the top of that list be what? The dhikr that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, and then forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certainty in Allah's mercy is not complacency with your own sinfulness. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah ta'ala, the great scholar, great ascetic, great sage, he saw Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala. The scene, by the way, he was on his knees, and it was towards the end of the day of Arafah, and he was on his knees crying in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His eyes were flowing with tears, his hands were raised, his knees were on the ground. This is Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala, the school of sincerity. He said, I walked up to him on that day of Arafah, and I said to him, O Sufyan, who is the worst person, or who is in the worst state amongst all of those that are amongst us today? The worst person in this gathering on this day as the mercy of Allah is descending. And he responds, الَّذِي يَظُنُّ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ لَهُ. The person who thinks that Allah will not forgive him. That's the worst person on the day of Arafah, is the person that thinks that Allah will not forgive them. Because the best part of Arafah, by the way, is the time between Asr and Maghrib, the last hour of Arafah. Just like if you were there in Arafah and the sun is setting and you're trying to catch those last du'as that you suddenly remembered as the sun is setting, the day of Arafah is special, especially in its last moments. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to observe it and count us amongst the forgiven. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be sincere in our dua and our supplications and answered in everything that we come to Him with. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our shortcomings on that day.